everyone. In this video, we will be learning the general characters of bryophytes and its classification.
Let us see what are the content we are going to deal with. We will start with the habitat of bryophytes, followed by the general characteristics of three classes of bryophytes, namely Liverwort, Hornwort and mosses. Finally, we will see the economical importance of bryophytes. Bryophytes are the group of small, simple, green, land-dwelling plants, of which a few are aquatic forms. Bryon, the word means moss. Phyton, the word means plant. There are totally 960 genera and 24,000 species. Study of bryophytes is called as bryology. Bryologists are the people who have the active interest in observing, recording and classifying or researching bryophytes. Many of the members of bryophytes are less than 2 cm long. The tallest bryophytes, called Dawsonia superba, reaches up to 60 cm. Bryophytes are common in warm, moist area, especially in the trophic and subtrophic region. But still, they can also be found in relatively dry desert and dry rocks. As we all know that finding the water in desert is not an easy task. So, desert bryophytes like Syncretia caninervis has developed small hair points called oin. These tiny haze-like structure at its tip of their leaves has a potential ability to collect the water. The oin allow the plant to take in the water from the location nearby or even from the mist or from the fog. Bryophytes occur abundantly in relatively unpolluted areas. They are sensitive to air pollution, especially sulfur dioxide. Bryophytes are believed to be evolved from some ancient groups of algae. We have already learned that algae are mainly aquatic in nature, whereas bryophytes are the simplest land plants. During their transition from water to land, bryophytes developed some characteristic feature that prevented them from drying out. One of these characteristic features is the development of sterile jacket layer around the male and female sex organs. This picture at the right side shows that the male sex organ antheridia, singular form is called antheridium. Antheridium produces the male gamete called spermatid or sperm. In this picture, you can see that the sterile jacket is covering the antheridia. The left side of the picture shows the archegonium. Plural form is archegonia. It produces the female gamete called egg. The basal of the archegonia is called venter and it contains the egg cell. The venter portion has a few layers of sterile cells. This forms the sterile protective covering of the archegonium. That is, the sterile jacket layer protects the entire sporangium. Sporangium are the structure where spores are produced. The protective covering around the sporangium is called as calyptra. Bryophytes are called amphibians of plant kingdom because they can live in soil but depend on water for sexual reproduction. For fertilization to occur in bryophytes during sexual reproduction, the sperm must swim through the water and to reach the egg inside the archegonium. So, the fertilization in bryophytes occurs mostly after rain. The plant body of the bryophyte is thallus-like, but more differentiated than in algae. The thallus-like plant body may be prostrate like Rixia or erect like Dawsonia superba. The plant body is attached to the substratum with the help of root-like structure called rhizoid. Bryophyte does not have true root, true stem or true leaf. The land plants have true root, true stem and true leaf. We know that in land plants they have a special tissues called xylem for water transport and phloem for food transport. However, in bryophytes they have absence of xylem and phloem. This makes the difference between the land plant and the bryophytes. Some members of the bryophytes have a special kind tissue for transporting the water and food. But this special kind of tissues are not so specialized and advanced like xylem and phloem of land plants. Because of this reason, bryophytes may possess root-like, stem-like or leaf-like structure. Also, most of the leaf-like structure of bryophytes are very thin and they may be only of one cell in thickness. The main body of the bryophyte is haploid and it is called gametophyte, which will produce male and female gametes. When the male and female gametes fuse, a zygote is formed. This zygote then develops into a multicellular body called sporophyte. Why it is called sporophyte? Because it will produce spores. The haploid gametophyte is dominant, long-lived, greeny and independent in nature, whereas the diploid sporophyte is short-lived. This sporophyte will attach themselves to the gametophyte and nutritionally depend upon them. The sporophyte consists of food, stalk called setae and capsule otherwise called sporangium. In the sporangium, the spores are produced. The foot of the sporophyte is covered by a leaf-like structure. Based on the thallus morphology, the bryophytes are traditionally divided into three classes. First one is liverwort, second one is hornwort, third one is mosses. In liverwort, the plant body is flat and prostrate. The plant body of the hornwort is flat and very similar to the liverwort, but they have a horn-like structure arising from the plant body. These hornwort-like structures are called as sporophyte. The plant of the mosses are leafy and usually erect, which typically looks like a lawn plant. However, first we will see the characteristics of liverwort. They belong to the class Hepatocopsida, the member belonging to the genus Rixia, Markensia, etc. They are the smallest plant than mosses. In those ancient times, it was believed that because of the liver-like outshape of the thallus, it might be useful in treating the diseases of the liver. The main body of the liverwort is thallus-like and dorsiventrally flattened. Dorsiventrally means having a distinct upper and lower surface as we seen in the case of leaves of the lawn plant. Some members of the liverwort, that is Lopocolia species, have tiny leaf-like structure arranging in two rows in the stem. The plant body of the liverwort is closely attached to the substratum by unicellular rhizoids. Coming to the reproduction of liverwort. The common method of asexual reproduction in liverwort is by fragmentation. Example, in Rixia, when the thallus gets older, it starts to dry out from the center and reaches the tip of the thallus. When it reaches the tip of the thallus, it will detach to form a new thalli. The second type of asexual reproduction is by means of gemma. In the member of the species Markensia, a tiny asexual bud called gemma cup is formed. When we come closer to have a look on the gemma cup, we can see a tiny gemma. Singular form is gemma. First, the gemma cup detaches from the thallus and reaches the soil. Each gemma in the gemma cups germinate into a new thallus. The gemma present in the male thallus produce male plant and the gemma present in the female thallus produce female plant. Now let's learn about the sexual reproduction and life cycle of liverwort. We will start with the spore formation. Spore germinate into a main plant. A plant body, that is gametophyte, is produced. In Markensia, the female gametophyte has an erect umbrella headed structure called archegoniaspore. Archegonia are seen beneath the umbrella like structure. Archegonia contains the egg cell, which is the female gamete. The male gametophyte or the thallus have a disc headed stalk called anthridiophore. This anthridiophore bears many anthridia. Anthridia produce a male gamete called spermatia or sperm. The sperm swims through the water and reaches the egg cell. The nuclei of the sperm and the egg now started fusing. Zygote is formed. Inside the archegonium, the zygote enlarges and forms a sporophyte. That is, the sporophyte is also called as spore-bearing structure. The sporangium, that is, the spore-producing body of the sporophyte, develops into a capsule. Now the archispore has a capsule instead of archegonia. In addition to the haploid spores, capsule also have a elongated cells called elaters. Elaters are sensitive to moisture. When the capsule get mature and dry, the elaters create a twisting action which helps in the dehiscence of the capsule. Now the capsule will start opening. The spores dehisces from the capsule. The released spores will germinate into either the male thallus or the female thallus. Let's see the next group of bryophytes, the hornwort. It belongs to the class Anthoceratopsida. Members belonging to the genus Anthocerox are the example of hornwort. The thallus resembles that of liverwort, except the special horn-like structure. Because of it, it is called horned liverwort. In the horns, spore-producing body called sporophyte are present. The sporophyte of hornwort consists of food and a long sporangium. When it gets matured, the sporangium splits longitudinally into two ribbon-like horns. In Anthocerox, there are mucilaginous-filled cavity. In the mucilaginous-filled cavity, cyanobacteria like nostoc species are symbiotically present. This cyanobacteria supply nitrogen to the Anthocerox, and this process is called nitrogen fixation. Let's see the sexual reproduction and life cycle of hornwort. We will start with the germinating spores. Here, the germinating spores will start dividing into a small thallus-like structure called protonema. This protonema will start growing into a adult thallus. In most of the members of the hornwort, the same thallus contains anthridia and archegonia. These sex organs are present just below the surface of the plant. The sperm from the anthridia will reach the egg in the archegonia with the help of water. The nucleus of the sperm and the egg fuses to form zygote in the archegonium. The development of the sporophyte will be with the help of food formation, meristem formation, and long sporangium cell wall is formed at the last. When the spore matures, the capsule splits longitudinally into two ribbon-like arcs, releasing the spores with the help of elaters. The spores will first germinate into protonema. Later, this protonema will develop into a adult gametophyte. Coming to the third group of bryophytes, known as mosses, belonging to the class Muscopsida. Common example of mosses are members belonging to the genus Funaria, Polytrichum, Sphagnum. as we can see that the plant body of the mosses are more advanced than the liverwort and the hornwort. For the gametophyte to generate, that is to form a main plant body, 4 stages are considered. The first stage is formation of protonema from the spores. In this stage, the spores germinate first into a small green filament like structure called protonema. The protonema means first thread. Protonema grows into a creeping branch forms to form a secondary protonema. From the secondary protonema, a lateral bud arises. This lateral bud grows into a upright, slender, axis-bearing, spirally arranged leaf-like structure. Once the lateral bud develops into a spirally arranged leaf-like structure, these leaf-like structure will attach themselves to the soil through multicellularly branched rhizoids. This leaf structure bears the sex organ called antheridia and archegonia. They are all produced in the apex, that is at the tip of the leafy shoot. Coming to the sexual reproduction in mosses. This takes place by the means of fragmentation and also by budding in the secondary protonema stage. Now let's see the sexual reproduction and life cycle of mosses. We will start with the germinating spore stage. The spores will germinate first into protonema and then into a young leaf gametophytic plant body. The gametophytic plant body bears the sex organ antheridium and archegonium. Antheridium produce male gametes known as sperm. Archegonium produces female gametes called egg. The sperm swims through the water, reaches the egg in archegonium. The nucleus of the sperm and the egg fuse to form zygote inside the archegonium. The archegonium enlarges into capsule or sporogonium, which will produce spores. This stage is called as sporophytic stage. Sporophyte consists of foot and setae. The capsule of the foot and the setae is covered by a leaf-like structure. Spores are formed after meiosis. Elaters are absent in capsules of mosses, but still mosses have an elaborate mechanism of spore dispersal. When the capsule becomes mature and dry, the covering of the capsule called calyptra drops off. Calyptra is the remain of archegonium. Then the operculum lid will also be shedded off. At this stage, a ring of teats-like structure surrounding the capsule called peristome is seen. This peristome helps in regulating the spores to discharge. The peristome teeth bends outwards, which makes the discharge of the spore easily. The spores are now carried away by the air. So far, we have seen the general characteristics of bryophytes and the classification of bryophytes. Now, let's talk about the economical importance of bryophytes. Some mosses produce food for herbaceous mammals, birds, and other animals. Species of sphagnum mosses are the main components of peat. Peat is a blackish or dark brown material which is the remain of plant partially decayed by water. Later, this peat is dried. The dried peat is widely used as a fuel as well as for the domestic heating purposes. Sphagnum mosses have the capacity to hold water, and because of this they are used in packing materials for transshipment of living materials. For example, the orchid plant can be planted in sphagnum mosses and can be transshipped. Mosses along with the lichens are the first organism to colonize rocks. Hence, they have the important role in the ecological balance. Mosses decomposes the rock and helps in the formation of soil. Later, it will support the growth of higher plants. Mosses form a dense mat on the soil and thus they reduce the impact of falling rain and prevent the soil erosion. In the next video, we will learn the structure and reproduction of Rixia. Thank you.
Want to know more about these topics? Please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe our channel.